Holding one.
All right, we're gonna get started. So first off, good afternoon, and thank you everyone for joining today's webinar, Snow Ridge Through the Years, which is brought to you by the New York State Tug Hill Commission and the Snow Ridge Resort. My name is Kelly McKee. I'm a project specialist with the Tug Hill Commission, and we're also joined today by my colleague Jennifer Carville and our director Katie Malinowski. Nobody goes slow. Okay. So for those of you who may not know, the New York State Tug Hill Commission covers about 2,100 square miles of territory in portions of Jefferson, Lewis, Oswego, and Oneida counties. As a non-regulatory state agency, we provide assistance to regional municipalities and other organizations concerning land use planning, local governance, community and economic development, natural resources, capacity building, tech assistance, and other sort of projects. In the last few years, the commission has received requests for local historical programming that can be accessible online. At one of our history presentations last year, that's where we got the suggestion to look into the history here at Snow Ridge as something that would be pretty rich discussion and important to the region and beyond. It probably goes without saying, but for better or worse, Tug Hill and Snow are two peas in a pod. Due to the unique geography of the region, its highland nature and its proximity to the Lake Ontario, Tug Hill kind of has the unofficial moniker as snowiest place in the East, not including the Rockies, of course. And the people of the Tug Hill region have weathered these challenges and seasons for hundreds of years, just like anything else, and find ways to turn it into their favor. Ask anyone from Tug Hill about their snow stories, and you'll find that snow is thoroughly intertwined with the lived experience of the people who live here. Sometimes a source of frustration, sometimes a source of joy, but always a source of memories. There's an ongoing snow story right here at Snow Ridge, where we're sitting today, which came here shortly to life after World War II. We had a combination of the post-war booming economy, expertise of returning war veterans who had that Alpine training, and a love of recreational skiing by two Lewis County families, which kicked off a skiing craze right here in Turin that rippled throughout the rest of the United States. In Snow Ridge's 70 plus years of operation, it's evolved from a family-owned ski hill that started with 2 handmade rope tows into a hotspot that would eventually produce future Olympic racers, serve as a staging ground for new winter sports technology, and receive even more dignitaries. Allow me to introduce today's speakers who will be taking us through this journey. Speakers, if you don't mind just raising your hand when I introduce you, that would be awesome for the people who do not know. So first we have Nancy Grisham, which is the daughter of Lawton and Emily Williams, one of those families I mentioned that started this resort. We have Jerry Britton and Bronny Davis. They are longtime Snow Ridge skiers and authors of the book White Magic, which is actually here on location if you want to buy a copy. We have Tom Smith, who's a former racer and coach and longtime friend of Snow Ridge. And then, of course, we also have Nick Mir, who is the current owner and general manager at Snow Ridge. And although she's not speaking today, I do want to mention and thank Sharon Stewart and the Turin Library. She is the one who recommended that the commission staff take a look at this. So thank you very much, Sharon, for starting this wonderful project. And now the boring stuff. Before we begin the presentation, housekeeping items. This is a hybrid webinar. We have people here and online. So this will be recorded via Zoom today to be uploaded in the following days on the Tug Hill Commission's website and YouTube. Links to the recording will be included in follow-up emails that were used in the registration process. And for those of you who are online, this presentation, your video feed will be kept off and you will be muted to conserve bandwidth. If you have any questions, please just enter them into the chat. We have a staff member who is going to be monitoring that. So if you could just type them in, they'll be held to the end and we can get started. Oh, and also if you could just turn cell phones down for those of you who are here in person, that would be fantastic, just to minimize any feedback in the background. So now for what you're actually here for, which is to hear our speakers talk. So I think we'll get started, and Nancy, you can start to take it away.
Okay, do I need this mic?
One and then Second one.
And you'll turn your screen on.
It's last here.
How's that? How's that? Can you all hear me? Louder. I can be loud. First of all, I wanted to thank everybody for coming, everyone that's here and all the people that are signed in via Zoom. They're from all over the United States and Canada and Switzerland. And we are all very happy that you wanted to be a part of this. So how it all started, my dad, Lot Williams, and his friend, Perry Williams, they weren't related. They loved to ski at a time when places to ski were few and far between. You had to climb a hill. So they would go around the hills of Lewis and Oneida County. They'd put skins on the bottom of their skis and they would herringbone up the slopes and then ski down and then do it again and then do it again. You had to be in pretty good shape. Both Lot's wife, Emily, my mother, and Perry's wife, Ruth, were also very enthusiastic skiers. And the four of them had a great time and they made a really good team. They observed that the snow around Turin seemed to come earlier and stay later. And they were looking for a place to make an enterprise because I think they got tired of climbing up the hills. They settled on this current location. They bought land from 4 different farmers, including the Snyder farm that had a farmhouse on it that you're in right now. Didn't look like this. Jack Rabbit Johansson was hired. He would lay out most of the larger Canadian ski areas. They hired him to come. He stayed at Perry and Ruth for a week. He would hike the terrain and figure out just how the trails should be laid out, and I suppose where the rope tows should go. It was the fall of 1945 when they did put the first 2 rope tows up. One was hooked to an old truck, and I think the other was hooked to a tractor. The farmhouse that I mentioned was transformed into a chalet. There was a cafeteria that I remember. It was right behind me. There was a dirt floor. There was a small ski shop. There was a rental shop. There were restrooms, and they had a first aid room too, which you would need back then, I'm sure, just like you need now. So with all that in place, Snow Ridge opened Christmas in 1945. Okay. Equally important to all of the above was hiring a renowned ski instructor to start a ski school. Few people would have had an opportunity to learn from an actual instructor at that time. Bill Miller from Barneveld served in the 10th Mountain Division, and he was part of this crowd that would climb the hills and come down. And I'm pretty sure he would have taught Lot and Perry and the rest of them how to get down the hill. About the only alternative to learning from someone that knew what they were doing would be to read a book. And there was a book written by Otto Lang that was popular at the time. I still have that at the house. A couple years later, another rope tow was added, and the first wax house was built. It had big picture windows looking out towards the slopes. It had a wood stove and a flat iron, and the skiers could come in and melt the wax to put on the bottom of their skis. Of course, at the time, they were all wooden, and about the only way that you could get down the hill was to wax the wooden skis. Can you hear me?
You see, this is the same view we're looking at right now up on the screen. You're looking at it at the same place 70 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mentioned the 10th Mountain Division of the U.S. Army, and I just wanted to talk about that a bit. It was the Army's only winter tactical fighting unit. There was a man named Peter Gabriel that was brought over from Switzerland to teach these soldiers how to get down the hill. They had these heavy backpacks and they had to figure out how to maneuver with them. It was in Colorado where they were based at the time. The skiing soldiers, they fought courageously in World War II, many battles in the Italian Alps. And it's the veterans of the 10th Mountain Division that had such an impact in the United States. They're actually responsible for 60% of the ski areas that were built, including Whiteface, Sugarbush, Vail, and Aspen. It really a tremendous impact on everything to do with skiing, whether it was ski shops, ski schools, ski areas, you name it, ski magazines. It's ironic that after World War II, the 10th Mountain Division was actually based up at Fort Drum, which is only 40 miles north of here. Within 5 years of Snow Ridge opening, there'd be great numbers of these soldiers that would descend on Snow Ridge to get practice on how to ski. Many of them would parachute in, and they even had a truck parachuted in one time that was right outside the wax house. I don't know how they did that without breaking down a building. The soldiers would pitch tents, they had camps set up, and they would have competitive races that basically went from what you know as Snow Pocket all the way to Little Mountain with their backpacks and their rifles on the back. The Korean War made it all the more pressing to keep a unit available that could fight in case there was the winter terrain they had to fight in, and that did happen. By the way, that the first ski school director that Lott and Perry did find was Peter Gabriel, who was the fellow that got hired by the 10th Mountain Division in Colorado to teach all those soldiers. And Jerry is now going to talk about rope tows. You want that one?
Sure. So afraid of that. Can you hear me? Can you just hand me the, I don't think I can get up.
He's got his full
The
cue.
very first rope tows installed in Snow Ridge when they opened in 1945. Is that better? Okay. Number one was over here on the edge of the two over here. It kind of splits on the south slope. Was number two rope tow. And gosh, I see that tree painted. I remember Pat Kelly taking a ski that I had purchased years ago and kept delaminating. So Pat wrapped it against that tree, and I got new skis from Rudy. But everybody today, I think, refers to that as the race hill. Number three was over here where the T-bar used to run, and starting at the bottom, but up here, there was what they called the dogleg toe, which opened up the north slope over here. So number three, number four, kind of hidden behind the skis, what we know today is Snowy Meadows and Little Mountain were 5, 6, and 7. So I don't know if that's helpful or not, but in 1947, Lee Hill purchased this land because at this point you can see they were all pretty long and difficult rope tows, which were very heavy and very fast. So they knew way back in 47 that things were going to expand, and they bought this additional property for the beginning hills. 1954. The who? Oh, the rope tow capacity was what, 8,000 skiers per hour. Thank you. Oh, okay. In 1954, the very first Poma lift was placed over here, installed on the snow pocket. The inventor, John Pomagaliski, I believe, who was the inventor, came to Snow Ridge from France, where the lifts were manufactured to supervise the installation. Had a capacity of 825 skiers per hour. Let me see. What's next? Okay, between 1954 in 1955, Lawton Perry, always wondering and being on the cutting edge of the ski industry, hooked up with a fellow by the name of Victor Hall. Now, Victor was from Syracuse at that time, and he had a side business of installing rope tows across the Northeast United States. And he realized at that time that the Swiss had a patent on the T-bar. And I think Lawton Perry convinced him to come to Turin and open shop. It was the side business is Hall Engineering. It was Hall Engineering, and he developed, copied two, I guess, of the Swiss T-bars. One was located at a ski area down in the Catskills, and the other was located here in Turin. Eventually, after being here for the installation, he decided to open shop over in across the street in an old milk plant. I want to say Greg.
Burdick's Crossing.
Burdick's Crossing. And from that point, it grew further where he started at Dick Jones's garage in the village, moved over to Burdick's Crossing, and eventually went up to Watertown. And that was the beginning of Hall Ski Lift. Okay, no, I've got to turn around again. 1955, the number 3 rope tow was replaced. Rope tow at that point, T-bar. 1957, Von Allman Trail was cut, and 58, the T-bar was erected over in this area, replacing the Poma lift, which was moved over to Little Mountain, where it burned after several years. At that point, lift tickets have gone from $2 to $4 a day, and 25 cents a ride to, I think it was 50 cents a ride. 1960, the Roebling, New Jersey company, the double chair was erected on the north slope. At this time, Snow Ridge had the 3rd largest lift capacity in the east. This required extensive regrading and excavation. A ribbon cutting ceremony was held in the fall of 1960, with guests being allowed to take a trip up the north chair in the fall. 1964, the 2 double hull lift chair lifts, which being the shortest, I believe, ever manufactured, were placed on 5 and 6. So at that point, you had 5, 6, and the lift that burned. Then Poma lift. 1968, 2 T-bar was installed on. A T-bar was installed on Little Mountain. I think that's.
Okay, back to me. Hey, back to me. If you build it, they will come. This quote from the movie Field of Dreams seems apropos. Snow Ridge had the snow, the tows, the amenities, and a first-class ski school director. And now it needed people. And they came, and they came, and they came. World War II was over. Skiing was a new craze. Automobiles were affordable. And I think folks were just ready to have fun. There were articles in newspapers and weekly ski columns in Schenectady and in Syracuse, and that helped spread the word about the quality and the quantity of the snow here. People came from surrounding counties in all directions, as well as from Kingston, Ontario, from Syracuse, from Rochester, Cleveland, and beyond. And in New York City, people would come, they would take the train from New York City to Utica, and then they would take a bus to Turin. It's kind of hard to imagine getting off in Turin from New York City. I'm sure they were in shock. And locally, there was some hitchhiking that was prevalent. And then where do you put everybody? Lodging in the form of guest homes popped up, which is a the name for B&Bs. The Parka dorm in Turin, overnighters there would have to bring their own sleeping bags. McGee's was very popular, as was the Pioneer Lodge. And eventually there were 25 of these guest homes that would pop up. In addition to that, there were several farmers that would rent out rooms and they would have home cooked meals for the skiers. Pretty lively, I think. And speaking of lively, a mecca to skiers that wanted some after skiing fun, the Crossroads was the bar and restaurant right down the road from Snow Ridge. It's still there. It's called Steak and Brew. You all know that, I think, or you should. Mary Ann Kelpie could play anything on the piano, and she pretty much did all night. Rumor has it there's still a depression in the wooden floor where her foot would continually hit the pedal. So skiers would come for the epic snow. They'd meet like-minded people looking for adventure. They'd form friendships, and they just kept returning. There was a European aspect that was imprinted early on with the wonderful succession of the Swiss ski directors and the instructors. Tyrolean music played on the loudspeakers.
And if you take a moment, we'll play and you'll get
Anybody remember that? It went on all the time.
Could have been Rudy. He yodeled.
Could have been Rudy. Rudy could yodel. Uh-huh.
Careful, we're not bringing back.
Oh, maybe we should. And also the lift houses would resemble chalets eventually. So there was a lot of this bit of little Europe going on here in small little Turin. From the beginning, there were arrangements made with the local schools to transport students to Snow Ridge and provide ski rentals and instruction. Starting kids to ski early promoted the lifelong love of the sport and kept them coming back. Some excellent racers came out of the program, and Jerry's going to be talking about that. Ready, Jerry?
Sure. Is the, can you just go, oh yeah, you can still see the truck. Could you just go back one more? Oh, you can't help but wonder when you look at the kids in that truck, if the 3 Olympians could have been in that crowd. You know, well, anyway, there was first Renee Cox, grew up skiing at Snow Ridge. Both Otto and her father coached her over the years. By the time she was 16, she won the US Nationals in slalom as well as downhill. Her husband, Dave Gorsuch, was also on the ski team at the 1960 Olympics. And the two eventually married and started selling ski clothing and ski goods out of the back end of a station wagon. And eventually ended up with really high-end ski shops, Aspen, Vail, all, you know, throughout the West. We had Ken Phelps. Ken grew up here skiing. He was from Port Lyden as well, or no, Ken was, I'm sorry, from Lyons Falls. Ken grew up here and eventually went out west, made the US ski team, competed in the downhill, won several other races. And there was another fellow from Port Lyden by the name of Red Wilcox. Now, Red was quite a character and quite a skier. Somebody must know Red Wilcox in the audience. Anyway, in talking to my wife's uncle several years ago, we said, "Oh, I know Red Wilcox. I grew up with him." He said, "You know, the only reason that he was fast, he never learned how to turn." And then with Red, he won the US Downhill Championships in 1956. And I don't know he was ever on the Olympic team, but I know Renee and Ken were both. And we have another racer who probably, he's lived here all of his life, has never been in this building. You might have found him once or twice, possibly 3 times, over at the Wax House. And his name is Henry Shanowski. And I think everybody certainly knows Henry. He won the Silversmiths 3 years in a row. And as I look around, I see we have another Silversmiths 2-time winner, Shelley. I should say 1 year. What year was it, Shelley? You won with Bill Johnson. And I'm sure everybody's heard of Bill Johnson, the famous downhill skier that misbehaved. Then I look around, I see Ray Borden, Ray and his brother Dick, skied here forever. Dick was another winner of the Silversmiths. Ray skied, spent a lot of times with Renee, and still they visit quite often. Who am I missing in the crowd that's another racer?
Roger McJacob's here.
Oh, Roger. Oh, okay. Oh, Jimmy Shue, Roger Majako, Eric Kirsteiner.
That was Roger over there by underneath. That.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think that's all I had for that.
Okay. Will I come back? Okay, back to me for a bit. Snow Ridge had many firsts, among them a skier's chapel. My dad didn't like to miss church, and that was not very convenient because he had to be here every weekend. A 3-sided chapel was built by Rudy. It was nestled back in originally it was back behind the sugar bush, and then it was moved behind the gorge. The mural was painted by a local artist named Bert Green. The service would be 20 minutes. People would ski up, stay on their skis. We had a rotating set of ministers that would come and do the service. And some poor organist would have to play that old pump organ with freezing fingers. My sister and I were not allowed to miss chapel. That was okay. But I still remember with mittens holding onto the acetate covered programs that you'd hear the ping of the snowflakes going on it. And I would be remiss if I did not mention the ski patrol. It's a big component of Snow Ridge, always has been, hopefully always will be. Encouraging safety on the slopes, taking care of the injured skiers. The earliest members here had participated in a local rescue training group organized during World War II. The fledgling National Ski Patrol adopted some of the techniques and equipment that was created by the Snow Ridge Ski Patrol in the 40s and the 50s. The rust-colored parkas, and there's some around here with the gold cross on the back, they were a familiar sight on the slopes. A significant number of these dedicated volunteers served over 20 years at Snow Ridge. Ski patrollers and their families were given free seasons passes by committing to 125 hours of service per season, which is a lot. That's a lot of time they gave. Most of the kids were involved in the race program. Do you remember the basement of the Wax House back then, how lively it was? It was full of ski patrol families and their kids, and it was a hoot down there. I loved going down there. I think, Bronny, I'm supposed to turn this over to you now. Is that right?
Okay. Yes, you're doing a great job. You
Oh,
could
thank
just
you.
keep going, but
No.
is this on and all? Okay, great to see so many people here. As Nancy and Jerry have already pointed out, Snow Ridge underwent huge expansion from 1945 when it first opened until right up to the 60s and 70s. With the advent of all the amenities, the modern tows and the facilities on the premises, people flocked here. The Children's Instructional Program and the Junior Race Program, which developed during the 60s and 70s, had families wanting to come and go spend an evening and maybe spend a weekend. So there began to be more substantial lodgings and dining establishments, some of which have already been mentioned, and also the building of vacation homes and the renovation of old farmhouses. People wanted to be able to stay here for more than a day. So this was happening. Rudy and Otto, the 2 ski school directors, built quite a number of these. There's Otto there. and gave them good employment during the summer, throughout the summer until they went back to work at the ski lifts. Turin was vibrant, and among all the other things coming into existence was Kristen Bryant's Swiss ski shop. Right, Pixie?
Kristen International.
Yeah, Kristen International Ski Shop. She started out by making hats. Right, all female factory it became. Started very small with her making hats. I'm looking at you so you can correct me if I'm wrong. They were so popular, these hats, and so creative that she branched out and began making ski wear. And eventually she had how many workers in the shop? Around 20 in the brick block building. They took over and it caught on like wildfire. She was so creative and she had people like Pixie to help her. And they did shopping trips to New York to buy fabrics and all kinds of things, and began spreading out internationally with their products, and opened a branch in where out west, Colorado? Right, they had, yeah, they shipped all over the US and I think even to Europe. So that was quite an amazing happening. So the two Williams families did a bang-up job of marketing their enterprise. Both couples were ever present on the slopes and then après-ski and the candlelight. And they just attracted people around them, the beginning of a huge social scene. Perry was tall, energetic, gregarious, and his wife Ruth, charming, and always a fashion plate on the slopes. There they are. Yeah, there's Ruth on the left. And then Lawton, Nancy's dad, he'll be coming up, a natty dresser and Bogners and his Tyrolean hat. And his wife, Nancy's mom, Emily, was loved by everyone for her charm and kindness. So they were able to draw in people who wanted to be here because it was fun and there was lots of stuff to do. The two women set the tone of casual elegance and attracted affluent families from all over, Utica, Syracuse, Rochester, Ohio, Michigan, Kingston, Ontario. Let's see, where am I? Okay, in 1958, a top New York City fashion house sent models and a professional photographer to Snow Ridge, followed by an article with lots of the photos in the New York Herald Tribune. There they are, the models with their fashionable garb. Photos were shot and appeared later, yes, and a few of the more photogenic Snow Ridge skiers, I guess, were asked to model some of these outfits as well. So what followed after all of these things, to me, is an era that I call the era of elegance. The social scene was flourishing, live music at the candlelight in the crossroads, Mahogany Ridge. I'm sure some of you are familiar with that. And it was also very popular. Rudy's Ski Week participants entertained every evening at Glühwein parties, dinners, cocktail hours. They would go to different people's homes. The Williamses hosted many ski weekers, otherwise known as squeakers. And at some point, things became a little more formal in the candlelight. People would be changing from their ski garb into, for the women, long skirts, fancy blouses, and for the men, turtlenecks and blazers. And this crowd usually hung out in the candlelight and danced up a storm, as you probably can. Did you see that already? Okay, they danced up a storm to the live band playing jazz and swing at the candlelight. Meanwhile, at the crossroads of Marianne, people were listening to honky tonk and all the popular music and being a little bit rowdy, maybe just a little bit. Okay, let's see. There was a family named Jacoby they were all very much involved in the race program and the ski club. We have a quote from Anna, who once remarked, "And there we were in the middle of Nowhere, all dressed up. Nancy, could you share some of your childhood memories from this era? Do you
Sure.
need this?
I don't know. Is this on? Yeah. Louder? Okay. I remember these parties and the ski instructors would come in their ski gear, their ski pants, their ski sweaters with a pin on if they had the pin because they were certified. When my sister Betsy and I were young, we got roped into things as well. I guess to pay homage to the European aspect, we would sometimes have to dress up in matching Bavarian outfits and pass hors d'oeuvres.
Sadly, we don't have photos of
Yeah.
that. Sadly, we don't have photos of that.
We don't have photos of that. I think that's good, though. People would come to these parties. They would be charmed by Rudy and the other instructors. They'd have a great time partying, and then they would head out to dinner. You may not realize it, but there were at least 6 restaurants in Turin at the time, as well as others not too far away. Alpine, Parquet, to name just a few. I think now I'm going to send it back to you, Bronny. You can
Okay.
talk about Rudy, Nato, maybe?
Let's see here, no.
No, or something.
Taylor has a
Taylor's.
comment for us.
So as you can see, Lott and Perry really stayed on top of the technological advancements, and with the location with snow and the hopping social scene, those were pretty big hallmarks of that era of elegance, as Bronny has described. But we also wanted to make sure that we were able to spend a lot of time on the other huge element that cropped up at this point. Bronny, can you tell us a little bit about what else drew people to Snow Ridge?
Sure. Okay. The stellar cast of characters assembled by Perry and Lott were a huge factor in Snow Ridge's success. The charismatic Rudy Kirsteiner from Zug, Switzerland, formerly a very top racer in Switzerland. He directed the ski school from 1955 to 1973 and helped to build many of the structures, such as the chapel and the ski school, a nice little archway they've always had out there, sometimes decorated. He helped build many of the structures, and he became nationally recognized as an examiner, a pioneer in new ski techniques, and an all-around great promoter for Snow Ridge and the sport of skiing. He traveled around to ski shows all over the Northeast with his, what is it called? That
A conveyor belt?
mechanical ski slope, right, that he actually skied on. Yeah, they were as a exhibit for the people at the ski things. Okay, then Otto, also from the same town as Rudy, Zug, Switzerland, was persuaded by Rudy to come over and join him at Snow Ridge. Otto had thought about coming to the US, learning English while teaching skiing, and then wanted to move to New Zealand. However, he ended up staying the rest of his life here in Turin. Both he and Rudy met the loves of their lives, American girls. Rudy married Donna and Otto married Anne. And they were here for the long haul. And when Rudy left, eventually, Otto took over as the director of the ski school from 73 to 78. And Otto's most valuable legacy was probably the Snow Ridge racing program and the many top-notch racers that he coached. Nancy and/or Jerry, can you tell us a few of your memories that stick out in your mind about Rudy and Otto?
Sure, take it.
Yes, if I give you the.
I'll go first. If you looked up the word flair in the dictionary, there should be a picture of Rudy. He was charming, he loved everybody, and he wanted everybody to ski better. He encouraged his own ski instructors, he encouraged little kids. He just kind of made you want to look better coming down the hill. And I never saw the guy wear a hat, ever, no matter how cold it was. But both Rudy and Otto we're known nationally as head examiners for the PSIA, Professional Ski Instructors Association, and they kept high standards for the Snow Ridge ski instructors. Most of the full-time ski school instructors were certified, which is a big deal, and all the part-timers were encouraged to work towards that goal. Jerry, you want to say something about one of those guys?
I'll say a little bit about Otto. You know, I grew up in Constableville and started skiing here back in the early 50s. Otto was a great person, a great instructor. He expected the best, you know, that you could possibly do. But one thing I really learned at a downhill race up in Lake Placid years ago was when you come to the flats in a downhill, you're really kind of tired, but you're supposed to stay in your tuck. I stood up. I didn't know Otto was on the side of the course. I learned that you don't stand up when you're in a tuck in a downhill race. And a lot of other things from Otto. He's just a great guy and a great family.
Okay, how do I need this now?
Oh. Where's Mike?
Yeah, yours also going to talk about your amazing trip racing.
Oh, I didn't know it was coming up so soon. Speaking of Otto, and I don't know how my father ever allowed it, but he allowed, I should go just a step back. Snow Ridge started trips, you know, to Europe. And I think eventually Otto and Ann took over the trips. Well, back in 1964, which I can't imagine my father ever allowing myself and especially my sister to go on a trip to Europe by ourselves. I was a senior in high school at that time, and I think Olivia was maybe in her first or second year of college. Well, once we signed up, somehow Otto realized when he was putting the itinerary together that myself, Andy Palmer, and Foster Palmer, three people that had grown up racing under Otto's direction, were going to be on this trip. So he contacted his old ski club Oberwil, in the little village that he grew up in Zug, and got permission somehow for us to race. And as Nancy's sister says, Nancy's mother, Emily, wrote an article. It's either Skier or Ski Magazine that was published. So as she said, these three young, anyway, Otto got us into the race, and we took off the night after we landed in Zurich and spent the night in Engelberg and started our trek to Zug, which included, I don't know, everything from walking to skiing to the telepherique to however we got there. And I have to look at this. I think anybody that knows anything about racing knows about seating. Let's see, I was number 192. Foster was 206th, and poor Andy was number 238. Well, again, as Otto competed or raced before we did, and he ended up winning the senior division. So I should have known after he finished before we went that he was going to be someplace on the course screaming. So now this came from the story. I heard some people yelling, "Bravo USA." Then Andy, number 238, made a great run. The Oberwell people went absolutely wild. They could see that we had won the junior championship. We finished 7th, 8th, and 9th. And we all received medals as well as Otto's. And we won the Stoss, Longines, Riesen Slalom Junior Trophy. I'm going to add this, a gleaming roll call of the greatest racers in Switzerland, which now this was written by Emily. Anyway, as she wrote, as we were coming home, we crossed Lake Luzerne on a steamer, gliding through the darkness of the soft March night. The Americans watched a myriad of sparkling shorelines. We'll never forget the race at Stoss.
I don't need one of these. Okay, I'm coming toward my finale here. We'll be moving on to the modern age very soon. Snow Ridge became so well known that it often received visits from prominent people such as Miss New York State, the Buffalo Bills quarterback Jack Kemp. There we are. There are some famous people. After these women, Governor Averill Harriman, he'll be on in a minute, I think. That's Jack Kemp. Okay, there's Governor Averill Harriman right there.
And then keep going. Yeah, then keep. There goes. All right.
You all set? Yeah, on the left-hand picture is Renee Cox. And
No. Yes. There we go. Sorry.
okay, are we all looking at the
Yep,
same
Rosie
thing
and
now?
Rainey and
Renee Cox, what's that middle? Billy Orcutt and the Governor Averill Harriman. And there's Harriman again with some of the school kids. And he came more than once to Snow Ridge. Some others, John Jay, the famous maker of ski movies, and an array of famous winter athletes we'll hear more about from Tom. The area hosted many events which drew big crowds, and art show. Oh, okay. Picnics and Easter costume slaloms, which was just shown, to name a few. The deputy mayor of Torino, Italy, which is translated to Turin, and the American town, they were invited, a whole entourage from Italy, to come and officially become our sister city. So you imagine them coming from the Alps to the ski area, all excited about coming to see the mountains of New York. But a great time was had by all. They had all kinds of ceremonies and dinners, and the deputy mayor presented a Torino flag as a symbol of their status as sister cities. So to sum up this era, Turin almost seemed an alternate reality, a magical place where it's an Alpine world away from everything else, where people came to just get away and have a great time. And then they continued to have a great time here as the years went on. And somebody who had probably a better time than anybody was going to be next.
There's one for you. And then
Hello, everybody. My family grew up in Rochester, outside of Rochester, and that was in the late 50s. And we came up every weekend with probably 6 or 7 other families. And in 1977, my parents decided this was going to be our permanent home. And they started running Snow Ridge for the Harrises for 6 or 7 years. There's my father right there. At that time, I started ski racing like all kids did here, and skied for quite a few years as a racer. But then the hot dog scene come along, freestyle skiing. I kind of got out of the ski racing and got into that. At that point in time, we have Wayne Wong and George Askevold, Floyd Wilkie, which were the pioneers of freestyle skiing. They came quite a few years. It was really fun. They were great. They gave clinics. And I was 17 maybe, and my father would give me the keys to the car and say, go pick Wayne up at the airport. I mean, it was crazy. I'd drive to the airport and there'd Wayne be, and people are going, that's Wayne. So yeah, it is. We'd bring him back and he'd spend a weekend here and give clinics, and he was here 5 or 6 times, I think. I don't know. Yeah. Okay, and then in the 70s, we had NASTAR, and there was the national team, we had quite a few people that made it to that. John Parker, Joe and Joy Angles, Dave and Charlene Hinman. There's a bunch of them that made it. Was that 5 people in 77? Okay. There's, yeah, Herbie McGee. I forgot about him. Yeah, it was fun. And then in the late 70s, oh, we're gonna go there. Yeah, we started grass skiing here. And actually there's a pair of grass skis right here. That was fun. That's what they were. And they had they went to Bryce Resort in North Carolina, my parents did. That's how they got this going. And they had the Nationals here one year, American Cup. And my father said, hey, you're gonna run. And I said, what? I'm not going against these guys. They had tricked out skis. We had these old things here, and I strapped them on, and I ended up taking 3rd place. And the guys are going like, what the heck is going on here? You know? And it was a rough sport. I mean, one guy went down and he tore his shoulder up real bad. And it was fun. It was fun. There's Wayne right there. And then in the 80s, 1980 Olympics, there was no snow at Whiteface. They were trucking it for the cross-country trails. They were making it on the hill. And I don't know how my father got involved with this, but the Korean ski team ended up coming here and practicing for like 2 weeks, probably prior to the Olympics. And that was kind of neat. Got to know, I think that just went dead. Here.
No, it's good.
Am I there? No. Sorry. Hello. That one's dead too.
Did that just turn off?
Test. You did what?
The speaker.
Somebody hit it? Hello.
It's Eric's fault.
Hello. Hello.
No, it's still.
They've got fresh batteries in them.
Hello.
I don't think it's the battery because they're still live. They're just not connecting to that thing.
Yeah, they'll be able to hear you over the people on Zoom. Yeah.
Yeah, can you talk loud?
Can I? Yeah, I don't know. He's not for hire.
He's retired.
All right, well, in the Olympics, the Korean ski team ended up coming here and practicing. I'm talking.
You can go up farther if you want.
How's that? Good? So anyways, the Korean ski team came here and they practiced, and it was kind of fun. We'd have parties at our houses and they would all come down there. And they had one translator. I don't know, there were 6 or 7 of them, and you couldn't understand anything they said. And one day my father said, why don't you take them roller skating? I mean, you would think that they could go roller skating. They didn't send the translator, but the translator told me when we left, no broken bones. I did understand that. So we're driving towards Boonville and we don't understand anything they could say. And one of the guys started singing like, row, row, row your boat. And okay, we got that. They would sing it and then we would sing it, and they did a few songs. I quit it, like maybe Donna Summer, I don't know. But it was fun. They made it, and we ended up going to the men's downhill, and the Korean ski team, there was one racer that skied downhill, and he was like the second to the last person that raced. And when he got through the finish line, his goggles were cocked off his head, his ski pole was gone. He made it through the finish line, and the the ski team, their teammates were going, they were like ecstatic. He made it, right? They were crazy. And I'm going, what's going on? It's the first time they've ever had anybody finish. So we're standing at the end of the, at the finish line, and the guy that made the course, he saw us and he said, come on in. And we walked right into the winner's circle, and I was standing, next to Ingemar, and it was really crazy. And Phil Mayer was there. It was neat. Yeah, that was some times. And then where are we here? Oh yeah, the concert that never happened. Pixie knows that. 1980, again, they were contacted by Polygram Records and a couple other big companies. And this guy wanted to have a movie of a concert. And they had a class act that was going to happen, like Rod Stewart, ZZ Top, REO Speedwagon, Joe Cocker. And they had a few meetings about it. And I actually started in here as a meeting, and it just got overwhelmed with people. So they took it to the wax house, and they had an attorney that was involved on this. And the lawyer said, if there's just one person on the board that doesn't want this concert, I'll shut it down and we won't do it here. And he had committed to paying the town $300,000. This is 1980 for the inconvenience of this concert. And the town supervisor at the time said, if it's going to take one person to shoot it down, he said, I'll be that person. And the guy packed his bags and he walked out. So it never happened. But when Peter Harris took over, he started having music in the 90s, and he started out with country and blues festivals. The blues festivals were fun. They were good. They had some pretty good top names like Robert Lockwood, Sun Seals, Clarence Gatemouth Brown. He was pretty good. I remember that. And then they went to some country music. They had some good country acts too. Toby Keith. I sat actually at the bottom of the hill right here with a local that was a bartender. Jaws. Me, Jaws, and Toby Keith had a few beers together one afternoon. It was crazy. We had so much fun. And we had like Mark Diffie, Brad Paisley. I was doing some work back then, wiring up some stuff, and the guy says, come on up here, give me a hand. He was unloading a tractor trailer, and they had a box that was probably that long, and I pulled it off. He says, be careful, it's every one of Brad's guitars. I said, every one? He said, he's got 17 guitars. He took them all out, he unstrung every guitar, strung them back up, tuned them all, and with a box tuner, played a little bit, every single guitar. I watched them for a couple hours. Then somebody else came out and played them. And then Brad came out and played every guitar, just practicing. And I got to meet him. That was kind of neat. Good guys. The country concerts were a little rowdy. So they kind of got away from that. They were rowdy. Flipping out houses, it was crazy. So they got out of that, and then like in 2000, I think it was, is when the Modown came. Nobody knew what Mo was. Who's Mo, right? Everybody's saying. And it's 5 guys that went to school in Buffalo, and they met. I'm yelling good, aren't I? 5 guys from Buffalo that played together, and they started a band called Mo, and they started out here in 2000. They had 17 Modowns. 2 of them, I think, were in Herkimer, but the remainder of them were here, and we sure hope to bring them back. That was a good time, good show. A lot of good bands that they brought, like Bobby Weir, Grace Potter, Ziggy Marley was here. That was neat. Blues Traveler, and the Method Man. That was like, how did that happen? But it did, and everybody's like, the Method Man.
That's wild. To anyone who doesn't know, he's a hip hop artist, so it didn't really fit the genre
Of
at the
Lowdown.
time, but it did work.
Yeah. So with that, we got Nick and what's going on from then until now.
Yeah. So to anyone who hasn't met me, I am Nick Mir. I'm the general manager here at Snow Ridge currently. My mother and I took over. This is our 8th winter. It seems like our 2nd winter and our 50th winter all at the same time, depending on the day. But before I get into any of that, I just want to say thank you to everyone up here, and Taylor and Jen and everyone who's helped us put this together. It's honestly, it's crazy for me to sit up here and listen to this stuff and being able to have all the meetings and hear all this history. I knew it was here before we purchased the area. Every single person we talked to talked about how rich the history was here and how incredible the place used to be in the 60s and 70s and moving forward. And to hear it all, firsthand has been really great. So thank you for doing this, guys. But moving on. So basically, I don't have anything to add to the historical factor, obviously. All right. I've only been here for 8 years. But what I can talk about is the stuff that we have been trying to do here and what we plan to do. And really, the main goal is always trying to bring this place back to those good old days, if you want to call them that. So that's kind of what the goal has always been since we first laid eyes on this place. I actually was fortunate enough to come here when I was a teenager and raced in the Silversmith. I did that twice. One of those years was the year that Andrew Wybreck won. No surprise, I got my butt kicked. But that was really cool. So that was kind of my first experience with Snow Ridge. But yeah, ever since we first laid eyes on this place, we knew there was a lot of potential and there was a lot of history to build on. So kind of just talking about some of the new technology. Obviously, you've heard about how things were done back from 1945 and on. But moving forward, obviously, one of the main things that we have to do is keep the slopes in order, grooming. And starting back, way back when they first started out, the only groomers there were people. All right, there were no machines. They would pay the kids or in lift tickets, correct? And they would sidestep up the slope, and that was the grooming at the time. Obviously, over time, that changed to some other into machines, like your Tuckers and your LMCs, those sort of early grooming machines in order to manicure the snow. We do still have one of those blue LMCs that I'm sure a lot of you saw back in the 80s and early 90s. And we've turned it into a really useful machine now for us. We put a cherry picker on it. So we can reach all the light towers and all the lift towers and stuff like that. So that machine has been repurposed and has some new life now for us, which is really cool to have. But since we've took over, we've also purchased 2 piston bully groomers. The first one we got was a 2006 piston bully 200 Edge. And that's been a great machine for us. We still have that. And just last year, we were able to purchase a 2016 piston bully 400 as well. So having those 2 new, state-of-the-art machines has made a huge difference with the snow quality. It's made my life a whole lot easier. And I love operating those things. If I can be honest, that's probably my favorite part of the job. Driving those things every morning. Despite the 4 a.m. wake-ups, it's pretty nice to, when the sun does come out. This year, that hasn't happened much, but see the sunrise, at 7 a.m. up on the top of South. It's a pretty cool feeling. So, but that's kind of one of the main ways things have changed as far as grooming goes. Another way, obviously, we have to maintain the slopes is snowmaking. Obviously, that's the natural snowfall here on the Tug Hill and in Turin is the reason that Snow Ridge exists. That's what attracted them to this place. And obviously, we continue to benefit from that very often. Unfortunately, so far this season, that hasn't quite been the case, but that kind of highlights the need for snowmaking and improving that infrastructure as we move forward. Snowmaking was introduced here in 1993. which kind of blows my mind because that's pretty late for New York. Most areas were adding snowmaking late 60s, early 70s, I believe. And to not have snowmaking here until 1993 is pretty mind-blowing to me. But that was installed in 93. Since then, we have replaced the 4 fan guns that we took over the ski area with, and have 5 state-of-the-art fans and 2 air water sticks that I'm sure you've seen around. Since doing that, we've actually started moving in the direction of automation, which will help with efficiencies and both in energy and snow quality and volume. So we're really excited to start doing that. We now have 1 fully automatic fan gun, which literally runs itself. It changes the water that goes through it as the temperature and conditions change. And we've also fully automated our pump house as well, which not only means that I can go upstairs and grab my tablet and start the water pump right now from anywhere in the world that I want to, but it also increases our efficiencies, gives us a lot more data, and most importantly to me, it ensures that we're never going to have a catastrophic failure due to a low water flow or something like that. And now is a very smart system that will shut itself off and notify me if something bad is happening, which is really nice. So that's been a huge investment for us. Just over the last 3 years, we have put hundreds of thousands of dollars into that system, which hurts to say. That's why I laugh. But we're going to continue doing that. We know that particularly these seasons like this, when it's low snow year to start out, snowmaking has become more important than ever, just to get slopes open quicker and get everyone skiing on the hill as soon as possible. So we're going to continue moving in that direction, and I'm really looking forward to doing that. Again, not only because it makes my life easier, but I'm kind of a nerd about that stuff, and it's a pretty another cool part of the job. So, okay, sure.
I heard the first year of snowmaking, they got so much snow they never needed to use the guns.
I believe that. I don't know if you. I don't. Sure. Yeah.
It started snowing that night. That was the blizzard of '66. 3 or 4 days later, they had to take it out.
It's for 30 years later. That's amazing. Yeah, I'm not sure about what happened in '93, but a storm like that would certainly make you shut those off for the season. That's for sure. What's that? Yep. One of the other things that we are working on here is basically taking this resort that's obviously been in operation since '45 and making a year-round destination. We've realized that when back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, even moving into modern day, you were talking about mid-November openings, running until April. 4 to 5 months of business to sustain the business. That's realistically not the case anymore. So when you have hopefully 3 months to operate, it's hard to sustain everything. So what we're trying to do is make it a year-round destination. What we've added just a couple of years ago, we had an 18-hole disc golf course that's free to play anytime. Just trying to get people on the property, and be thinking about us when they're not here. We're also working on our mountain bike trails, which I am, knock on wood, will open up this spring or summer. That's slow progress, but that's going to be a really cool addition for us. We'll have mountain bike trails all over the hill. Again, free to use until we have some sort of uphill access that we're going to offer. And we also do a lot of things like our mud run, Tug Mudder in the spring. It's a really cool running event over obstacles through mud pits, that kind of stuff that attracts 200 to 300 people every spring, which is a really cool event for us. A couple music festivals, much smaller than the Modown days, but they are very cool in their own right. And they're fun to come to, family friendly, great time, and a really cool event for us to have here. We also obviously offer camping and weddings in the well, all months, but particularly in the summer months. So those are some ways that we're trying to expand Snow Ridge, run it 12 months a year, and kind of have something to offer all year round. Another great part of what we've been able to do is expand the trail map. As you can see, well, I don't have one of the old ones on me right now, but you know, the old trail map had a much smaller number of trails. We currently have 33 trails, 12 of which we've added in the last 3 years. So we are really excited with the work that we've been able to put in there. We've had a lot of volunteer days and volunteer help to get those trails cut. A lot of them are glades, but we're starting to build some of actual trails that can be groomed as well. And we hope to expand on that in the next few years. So yeah, it's been a really crazy ride the last 7-8 years. We're looking forward to more. And as I mentioned, the goal is, you know, always to bring back those glory days and just continue to honor that legacy that this place and all these people that have been here for so long. So we're looking forward to moving forward and doing the best we can for you guys.
All right. And then, oh, wait, almost done. Can you go forward one slide, please? And so we did want to wrap the presentation up with a quote from the White Magic book that Bronny and Jerry have been worked on some time ago. At the end, there's a passage where someone who was spoken to when the book was being written mentioned that the ski area's loyal fans came for the cheap tickets, the night skiing, and the kids programs. They stay for the fluffy, powdery snow, which we're blessed to be definitely having here today. Some people call Snow Ridge the best kept secret in the East. Turin is once more a sleepy little village in the middle of the lesser wilderness, but I can see the potential for a revival. I really can. And I thought that was a great note to end on. I did want to add in some acknowledgements for this presentation, which is a lot of what formed the backbone of this discussion was from White Magic. You can see it on the left-hand side of the screen. There are books that are available on location today if you're interested. And of course, you have the two authors right here, so you could pick their brains if you'd like. The black and white photos and some of the colored photos too, we kind of attribute that to the Snow Ridge archives. There's a lot of stuff and photos, as you can see from the display we have here. And Tom also is holding on to quite a lot of it. So I have to give special thanks to Tom. Tom and Sharon both helped do the setup today. It looks fantastic. And Christina. And then also I did want to thank David Hinman, who sent us a lot of the cookout and NASTAR colored photos. We've been speaking with him over email. David's here. Oh, awesome. Well, and thank you very much, David. And now I think we'll be opening the Zoom chat and in person to any questions. Okay. Okay, so the question was, who was the ski school director before Rudy? Oh. You guys want to share this?
And when we started to grow, Mary told me they wanted to get a main ski instructor. So they advertised in the New York Times. And in the New York Times, he got a letter in broken Spanish from Swiss. And it was an English paper, and it said, out of an almond wins Swiss National Long Championship second year in a row. And that's how we hired Alvin Allman. And Alvin Allman, he started skiing in 9th grade, graduated in 1954. But Alvin Allman, we used to come up there 10 times. He used to bring us up there 2 times a week. Got our school every week. And Alvin Allman was sent in Swallowing, the old maple forest.
Yeah.
Big trees. Then Get over there on number 1. And he would stand. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He would stand at the bottom of the hill. And he would critique you in broken English. And once he turned around and was done with you, skiing over your shoulder. First, real name, your here.
So to reiterate that question for those of you who are on Zoom and may not have heard all of that, the question was, who was the ski school director before Rudy? And it was Otto von Allman. He was a Swiss skier. And for those of you who are on location today, we do have photos of him jumping, a couple different photos of him jumping, both in hard copy and on the TV screen. Can we take another question, Jen?
Sure, the next question's from Perry. What is the fastest race time on the mountain?
That all depends on the course. It changes every time you set a race course. So, but currently we're running NASTAR again. That's something that Tom has headed up for us this year, and that's about a low 30s to mid 30s course for most of the racers. So to give you an idea.
There's somebody named Hans.
Hans Schmidt. Hans Schmidt was before Out of the Almond, is that right, Ray?
I've got it here, if I can just find it.
I don't think he was here very long.
No, he was only here a year or so. Yeah, according to my old research, the first one was named Franz Elsigen. He was Austrian. He didn't stay very long. I don't think he even stayed a whole season. That was 45. 45 to 47 was Peter Gabriel, about whom you heard, the Swiss 10th mountain guy. And then 47 to 48 was Hannes Schmidt, Austrian. I don't know if anybody knows much about him. And then came 1948 to 51, Otto von Allman. And Rudy was the next one after that. And then there are a bunch of others later too.
Are there any other Zoom questions?
There's one more. Somebody wanted to know who made the delicious donuts that we put on in the wax. This is the wax house during the 60s. Best donuts she's ever had.
Mary Krieger.
Made back here in the kitchen. I'm not sure if it was Mrs. Ingersoll then or not. They made donuts and they made the big chocolate sheet cakes. Mrs. Hill.
You guys.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see this one? Maybe it's one with a lot of lyrics from the band is in the Bryant. I want to read that one, Taylor. You're my
Oh.
Tom, can you read it? No.
So where my mom says.
Thank you.
Okay.
So from Lisanne, it says, thank you. I will have to look for a video of me learning how to ski at 2 years old on the Jack Frederick show. My father, Rudy Kirsteiner, wanted people to know that even a small 2-year-old can learn. He made a small hill out of plywood and white carpet. Thanks.
Yeah. That was Rudy's daughter. Yeah. Yeah.
Was that all the questions we had from the Zoom chat so far? Okay. Could we take some questions from the people in person? Anyone have any questions that you want to ask our wonderful speakers assembled here today?
Or comments.
Yes, or comments.
So quiet.
Yes, the question was if there were any audio issues, given that our microphones decided to die halfway through the presentation. This is being recorded via Zoom. In the coming days, we will be taking the recording and uploading it to the Tug Hill Commission's YouTube channel. So you should be able to rewatch any sections that you may have missed, or if you know someone who couldn't be here or didn't know about it and think, oh boy, I think they'd like to watch that, you can then send the information to them. So those that you may have provided when you did the sign-in sheets for any walk-ins.
I grew up skiing in the 60s, 70s, and into the 80s. I'm Shelley Kempton, and ski raced up here, raced Division I at St. Lawrence, and then kind of Shelley Kempton, and raced at St. Lawrence, and then wanted to find a new spot. And Jim Morse had gone there, and a whole bunch of people from Snow Ridge went down to Toggenburg. So I've known Nick's mom for 30 years or some odd years down in Toggenburg, and she was so awesome. So just the whole come around, and then we'd come up for the reunions here. And when you guys bought, I'm like, oh my God, this is where I grew up. So the whole continuation for me is just amazing that you guys are now here, and the best people in the world to run a ski area, as I've experienced at Toggenburg. So I'm really glad that this whole conglomerate has come together and that you guys are here and have gotten to know some of the background, which is, thank you, all of you that put it together. Much appreciated.
Shelley, could you just help? Could you just tell us a little bit about Chris, or maybe Chris could tell us? Chris grew up here skiing. His dad, they had a home up in Constableville that took in people for winter skiing.
Oh, thanks, Jerry. Yeah, well, it was, when I was very young, we were living in Syracuse. So about 4 years old or something, we started looking for a place to go skiing on the weekends. Snow Ridge was a little far to go every day, so we thought we should get a little place. And as we started looking around for little places, we couldn't find a little place, so we got a bigger place, and we opened a ski lodge in the middle of Constableville called the Ski Hearth. On a pinch, we could sleep 40 people. It was bunk rooms. You could get dinner, dad cooked steaks or chicken over the big fireplace that was there. The house was built in 1832, and it had a great big old fireplace. $8, bunk room, breakfast, dinner. And it was a great time to grow up. And I skied, came up with the Seaville Central School, where Jerry also went. And we came up at least Tuesdays. I got up skiing several days a week and got such a great base on skiing. I had a great time, and I did okay racing Division I and had some fun doing that and coaching. But it all started here for me at Snow Ridge, basically. This was it. We were here from about 57, 58 to Dad passed away in 66 in the fall, and I think we sold in about 67 or 68.
Do you have any relatives that are still racing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So kinda, I guess. I mean, I was, my ex-wife is Marilyn Cochran, whose nephew is Ryan Cochran Seagull, who was the only American to get an Alpine medal at the Olympics last year. And he's doing okay. He's been on a few podiums in the World Cup. So it was, anyway, but for me, it started here, and this got us into skiing. And actually, one of the neat things, when I first brought Marilyn over here, we talked to Jerry, and we talked about skiing a little bit, and then Jerry was trying to include Marilyn in the conversation. And he says, do you ski?
I never forget that, sitting on the steps.
You ski.
I had no idea.
Did you say?
Well, I didn't ski at Snow Ridge.
Do you want to mention the Roger Brown Memorial, which has been since the
Yeah,
60s, right?
here.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
have
Yeah, it was really nice. Dad, one of the things, well, he worked with the junior race program that I was in, and he thought it was maybe a bit much that kids had to run all over the place to go to races. So we established a race here every Sunday, so the kids could all have a pretty good race. And before the NASTAR too, there was a standard race, but then we had the Sunday races, and it was It was for the kids in the junior race program. And so after Dad passed away, they named the trophy of who won the most over the year after my dad. And I've heard that's still around someplace.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was very nice. But yeah, so yeah, my heart's always been here at Snow Ridge.
Do we have any other questions or comments?
Could I still ask another question? I mean, no one out here seems to want to speak. And I know this person will. Rod, could you stand up for just a minute? Ziegler? I just want you to talk about your grandfather.
I don't know much about it, but all I know is he had something to do with my grandfather. My uncle and my father had something to do with setting the towers up back in the early 50s. That's all I know.
There's some good pictures on the slideshow.
Yeah, there was a couple pictures there.
Going the crane up to go with the D6,
Yep.
D9 or whatever.
I don't have any family pictures. They
Well,
went-
you know, I know somebody that does, Daryl. I gave him a bunch of pictures, so you can get copies from them.
Okay,
And there's nice pictures.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you. Some background.
Hey, Roger.
I give you some background.
Right up close to your mouth.
Yeah, you know, a lot of you look familiar. That's for one thing. Thanks for coming.
Hope you don't mind.
And it brings back old memories. I've been here all my life. I started out here with my whole life. Got out of high school and my first place to work here. And I started out as a chicken or a ticket checker. And Lot, he's the one that hired me. And he was a sneaky one. He put me on down on the Poma lift down there to check tickets. So I was checking tickets and make sure everything was going good. And so he told me to stand in this middle of the line. So when the people came through, they were pretty much double, and I was right in the middle. Well, Christ almighty, look, and almost got run over. So I moved off to the side. Well, he wept up and he came back up to me and he says, I told you to be in the middle. And what he was doing, I watched him. When he went back, he went around the corner of a building and he was just peeking out there to see if I was gonna do my damn job. Well, anyhow, so that was it. Got along fine. Well, I got hired full-time. Well, hired full-time is in 1959. And we've done all of the towers, painting the towers and things like that around regular maintenance. So along have come the rolling chairlift. So there was 4 of us that worked at that time on that rolling chairlift. There was myself, John Duncan, Jim Dupert, and Richard Lewandowski. So we all had our jobs of putting in the foundation work for the towers, going up the hill, coming back down off the hill. And like they mentioned here, having a D6. And that was by Gordon Ziegler. And he had a crane also. And he had that D6 and he would let that crane down to help put stuff in the, the concrete and all that stuff. Matter of fact, he even let the trucks down with the concrete or with that D6. And what they did, they went around the backside of the, I believe the Lewandowski Road up here, and then came on the back part of the hill up here, and then they would let these concrete trucks down with that D6. So anyhow, got that all done, and then we put the towers up. And got that done, and then we built down below and everything else, and under the jurisdiction of the engineer for Roebling. So turned out, so then when that got completed, the Roebling chairlift people came to us 4 guys. They wanted us to go to Long Beach, California to work on a building out there or a bridge. Well, what happened out there is the fact is, you got all farm guys here. We wanted to stay home. So we all did. But there was a good job out there because every height that you went, you got more money. Well, we got I think when we worked here, we got $1.25. So that was that story. So after that all got all done, well, then I went to another type of work. And then it turned out, and I started coming in for the ski patrol. And there's members here right now, ski patrol members here right now. There's probably, I don't know, maybe half a dozen or so here. But I recognize them. But anyhow, would you stand up? One of the ski patrols.
Yeah.
There's 1, 2, 3. There you go. That's nice. And there's some place at my house, I must have a picture of it somewhere. We all got together, I got a picture of it. But also another thing is I've got movies on my old 8mm movie camera of everything from the time I was working here till almost the time I got done. And I've got, at that time, the people that were skiing here, there were lines. My God, you'd have to be like a ribbon. I mean, that's how many people that were skiing here at that time. And it probably, I would say, it probably took anywhere from probably a half an hour time you came down off the hill, probably the time you went back up again. And that's how many there were here. And that was at every place down the line. It wasn't just one ski lift. It was all down the line. But that's what I got to say.
Yeah, they could, you should pen them away and put them on DVDs. I did that. Yeah.
We got everybody's chat saved, and if there's something we missed, we'll.
All right, well, thank you to everyone who joined us in person and those of you on Zoom. Appreciate you tuning in. We will be taking this recording and uploading it to our YouTube channel. The presentation slides, if you want to go back and look at them, will also be uploaded to our website, the Tug Hill Commission website. We have the chat also saved from the Zoom, so if we missed anything, it'll still be there, and you can always email us at the Tug Hill Commission for any questions that may not have been answered, and we can put you in touch with the speakers if you needed to ask them any questions as well. So thank you very much, and thank you for joining us for the story. Have a great day, everyone.
We did it.
I want to get one more thing.
Yeah. What? Yeah, you were rolling.
Your quote.
Which quote?
You build it.
Yeah.
Give it up.